fellow social workers, social work students, and anyone else out there that may be listening to this podcast. My name is Dr. Victor Manalo, and I am the Macro Social Work Mentor. Thank you so much for downloading the podcast or listening to the podcast off my website. I really, really appreciate it. I got such wonderful, amazing feedback from my colleagues and even others that I don't know very well on my very first episode. And I'm going to incorporate many of those comments into my upcoming episodes. So I really appreciate it. I am thinking about now doing some interviews in the future, interviews of social workers that are actually working in this mezzo-macro space and asking them questions, the answers to which may be important to all of you who are listening. So I do plan on doing that and also helping to kind of bridge a little bit of the gap between micro and mezzo-macro practice. So those are some of the things that I've gotten from feedback from all of you, and I really, really appreciate it. I will remind you at the end of this podcast, to please go onto my website and send me a message, or you can friend me on LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn account. I am also on Instagram as the Macro Social Worker, and you can DM me on Instagram as well. So any of those places you can give me feedback, and I'd really, really appreciate it, because I want to make this podcast fit to meet your needs. Those of you who are out there, either students or seasoned social work professionals who want to incorporate a little mezzo-macro social work into your practice, or maybe make more of a transition into mezzo or macro practice. So here we go with today's episode number 2 of my podcast. And this episode I like to call, and I am calling it, you probably saw it, it is your social work superpower. Yeah, well, I'm naming it your social work superpower because I know that many of my students, and of course those who are younger than I, much younger than I, those of you out there, are superhero fans. And I don't know much about what's been going on over the last few years regarding, the Marvel universe and all the different superheroes that are out there in the movies and things like that. But I know that because there's a lot of it out there, a lot of people are talking about superpowers. And of course, I remember one of the first Spider-Man movies that I watched, and really loving the whole story of Spider-Man kind of discovering his superpower and then using it for good. And that's what we are as social workers, right? We have our superpowers and we have ethics that kind of help guide us to use our superpower for good. So what is our superpower, you're probably asking? Okay, get to the point here. Yes, get to the point. What is your superpower? Well, this is what I think our superpower is as social workers when it comes to the mezzo-macro space. Our superpower is relationships. Yes, you heard that correctly. It is relationships. And you don't have to go look very far to understand the importance of human relationships, because it is, as a matter of fact, one of the core values of professional social work practice. It's right there in our code of ethics. The value the importance of human relationships. And I'm reading this directly from the Code of Ethics on the National Association of Social Workers website. The ethical principle is that social workers recognize the central importance of human relationships. Now, all of us social workers know that because in our education, whether it's on the bachelor's level or on the master's level, we all know that most of our classes have been geared towards recognizing the importance of human relationships and understanding and learning and practicing how to cultivate positive, professional, human relationships. I would argue that that is what we are all about. And take it from me, I was not really good when I started as a social work student in developing really positive human relationships. But as a professional, I have grown over time, and it took me a while to learn how to create good relationships with people. And the thing that's important that one of the things I want you to take away from today's podcast is that in our social work education, what I've found, of course, I have a very limited experience here because I've only taught primarily at one university, although I've taught in other universities in the Los Angeles area. But our curriculum is primarily focused on the importance of developing our relationships with our clients. And I would argue that the central importance of human relationships is that we need to apply what we've learned regarding developing positive professional relationships with everyone that we come across as social workers. Whether it is our coworkers, our fellow students, our professors, people that are teaching us, our field instructors, our supervisors, others in the agency, program managers, directors, executive directors, CEOs, HR people. It could also be the people that are cleaning our buildings, or the person who's working in the parking lot, or the barista at your favorite coffee place, or the checkout woman at the local supermarket, or your neighbors, right? All of these relationships are crucial to the change that we are seeking as social workers. Now, it goes on further to say in the description of this value of the importance of human relationships in our Code of Ethics, it says, social workers understand that relationships between and among people are an important vehicle for change. An important vehicle for change. Our relationships are an important vehicle for change. That's what it says. You can look it up yourself. It's an important vehicle for change. And we know, right, because we've been taught this, it is an important vehicle for change for our clients, right? That's why we develop good relationships with them. But imagine we can use our relationships between and among people that we work with as a vehicle for change within our organization or within the agencies that we work in. Our relationships between and among people in our neighborhood and our community can be important vehicles for change in our neighborhoods and our communities. Our relationships between and among people in government, whether it's in our city government or municipal government, whether it's in our county government or state or even on the federal level. And not just the elected officials, but the staff, right? That those relationships can be an important vehicle for change. This is what I am emphasizing in this podcast today, that we should be using our relationships at the mezzo and the macro levels as an important vehicle for change. Because later on in the Code of Ethics, under relationships, the importance of human relationships, it says, social workers seek to strengthen relationships among people in a purposeful effort to promote, restore, maintain, and enhance not only, I added that, not only the well-being of individuals, families, social groups, but also, I added that piece, but also organizations and communities. And I would add in there, if I had a chance, and we could talk about that later, because we all have a chance if you're a member of NASW, but to, that we all have I would add to that governments and other institutions in our communities, nonprofits, human service organizations, schools, right? And a lot of different institutions. So those relationships are crucial to change. Relationships are not only for your clients, they're for everyone. So now that you all know what our social work superpower is, our value of the importance of human relationships, and our ability to recognize the central importance of human relationships and to be able to apply that to all our relationships, then you already know the power of relationships. You're already using your relationships to a certain degree to expand your professional network, to improve your ability to serve your clients. You are using your connections to meet other social workers or other professionals in the social service and human service landscape. And you are able to refer your clients to other agencies and to make warm connections with your clients to real people who can help them, and to be able to provide the services that you cannot provide or your agency does not provide to them. That is, you know the power of that. I know that many of you do that on a day-to-day basis. But we need to expand our understanding of what the power and the potential of our relationships are as an important vehicle for change. So let's step it up a little bit. So 1, improve your ability to serve your clients. 2, we've already mentioned, to gain social work mentors and colleagues who will help you in your career journey as a social worker. Now, I know for sure that I would not be here right now speaking to you on this podcast if it were not for my mentor, Dr. Jim Kelly. Because when I was a student at California State University, Long Beach, in my MSW program, I decided to join the National Association of Social Workers. And after I graduated with my MSW, I decided that I wanted to get more active in what was going on with NASW here locally in the Los Angeles area because of another mentor of mine, Roy Morales, Uncle Roy we used to call him, a very prominent social worker here in the Filipino community in Los Angeles. And so when I started getting active in NASW here in Los Angeles, it turns out that the regional director at that time was Dr. Jim Kelly. And Dr. Jim Kelly was the head of the Department of Social Work at California State University, Long Beach, where I had just graduated with my MSW degree, but I had never met him before. But since he was the regional director of our local Los Angeles region, I got to work with him as a volunteer leader in the National Association of Social Workers. And we got to plan a lot of events together.